Yo, I see you now.
Yo, what's up? Can you hear me? Yeah, can you
I
hear
hear
me?
you. I hear
Yeah,
you.
what's
What's up?
good? You see me, hear me. Before I could hear you, but you couldn't hear
Yeah,
me. So I was like, I was like, what the fuck's going on, yo?
well,
Like, anyways,
what's up?
yeah.
How you doing?
Oh, same shit, different toilet. You know how it goes.
Good, good. I just talked with KD, bro. He's saying to do this interview. He said knock it out ASAP.
Yeah, fuck it, might as
You know
well.
what I mean? Yeah, bro. And I just called out my fucking. Remember, I told you about how my uncle threatened to fucking kill me and shit and all that weirdo shit. And then a fucking Dylan did the same shit after that conversation me and you had with him. He literally was in the text like, "I'm gonna slide on you." What does that mean? I'm gonna slide on you. Slide on you means I'm gonna pull up and shoot you. So it's like cornball shit, bro. This
Or
dude's close.
donkey or some shit,
Like, you know what I mean? Like, and then fucking still acting like he's a 13-year-old shooter for the GDs and BDs in Chicago. Like, bro, come on, dude. It's cornball, crazy shit. And at the end of the day, bro, I'm a dad, bro. I'm gonna call it out, bro. I'm not gonna be playing those games. And at the end of the day, you call it out,
I gotta put my
you're
ice in my drink. Give me a second.
you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying though, right?
I feel you. But also it's like, yeah, I mean, like, I uh, I come from Madison, Wisconsin, and obviously Madison, Wisconsin is very close to Chicago. Uh,
Yeah,
so you know, there were a lot of fake GDs and BDs in Madison.
yeah,
There
that's
were a lot of people,
thing.
and the joke was like when you were in jail, and someone would be like, "Oh, I'm GD, I'm BD, blah blah blah." There'd be like a couple of people that were actually like GD and BD back in Madison jails because like sometimes it wasn't that far away, so sometimes people would migrate that were actually like decent players in that game. But when you were like, oh, I'm GD or BD, then the first thing it would say is, let's can you go back? That'd be the first question they ask
And
is, but can you go back?
he can't go back. Can't go back to shit, bro. He literally told me he can't go with me to a nightclub because his ops are there, and it's really his whole entire old alleged gang. So, like, come on, bro. And I wouldn't even say this if motherfuckers didn't say they're trying to fucking kill me. At this point, now it's like you want to kill me. Fuck all your secrets. Fuck all your reputation. I'm a fucking. You know what I mean? I'm gonna call it out, bro.
Well, it works. I don't know shit about him personally, but what I will say is there were a whole bunch of like fake ass like GD and BD motherfuckers in Madison, Wisconsin, which wasn't too far away from Chicago, but was also a whole lot softer than
Yeah,
Chicago.
yeah,
So it was like, you
yeah.
could be you could be a fake ass gangster in Madison pretty easily. But once you went to jail, also like the Dane County jail wasn't that hard. So like the OGs aren't about to like beat your ass just because you're like claiming GD or BD. But what they're about to ask you is, can you go back? Because most of those motherfuckers are people that left because they fucked up, that whatever they were doing back then, and they
Yeah.
or whatever, and so but they knew they could go to some place like Madison, and they could pretend to be hard, and everyone would be like, oh yeah, you're fucking hard, blah blah, you're GD, you're
Yeah.
BD, whatever, blah blah. Until they met the real OG motherfuckers, which a few of them were in jail in Dane County every once in a while. But once they met the real OG motherfuckers, and then they calmed the fuck down. Then
Yeah.
they were like, yeah, like, oh yeah, whatever. But
With. That's kind of what I'm dealing with. So I'm just letting you know because I did just make a big post about it. Like, yo, oh wow, I really had two fat fucks, obese men threaten to murder me, and the year hasn't even got to the fifth month yet. I got
I mean,
two.
the thing is, there's a lot of there's a lot of heads in like GD and BD and shit that are fat. Right? You know,
I
Big
know.
Meech wasn't a skinny guy.
Yeah.
Larry Hoover wasn't a skinny guy. But so I mean, like, but I'm just saying, like, being fat has nothing necessarily to do with it.
Yeah.
But at the same point, like, if you're not if you're not running shit in like Chicago or different places Indiana or even like Detroit, like Midwestern shit, as a GD or BD, then you're probably not anybody that's that high up or anything, or anybody that's actually like doing some shit.
If you're portraying yourself as a gangster and you're really just an obese man that was excommunicated from the gangsters anyway, like, and then you're threatening to murder people that are trying to give you a chance to build your life out of gangsterness, out of streets, out of that, just build your life in entertainment. And I'm trying to help people with doing that come from that street life, and you're just like threatening to murder people. You're a psychopath. You're a retard. You're not, like, come on, bro. Like, I don't even know what words I could say to describe that I'm allowed to say on Instagram. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
shit.
Regardless, though, we got to get into what we're talking about, which is the loose cannon brick baby situation. They're roommates. You know your friendship with loose cannon that you had throughout the years. I don't want to get too,
Yeah,
excuse
I
me, into
mean,
details, but I think it's more about letting you speak on this.
yeah, I mean, and I'll say this: like, Luce has always shown me respect, and Luce has always been somebody that I've respected, mutually, and so, but also like, I don't, I don't claim to know because like I don't ever claim to be like a rolling '60s crip or any of these other shit.
Yeah,
So I don't claim to know whether that shit's true or not. I'm not saying it's true. I'm not saying it's not. Uh,
yeah,
Luce Luce and I met back when NFTs were really big,
yeah.
and one of the reasons why Luce should be let out on bail is because he has a legitimate record label in LA. And it's a fairly large record label in LA. It may not nationally be a really large record label, but like he's making decent revenue off of his record label, IBM Integrity before money. And Integrity for money. If that's what you decide to name a record label, that should probably tell you something about your values. But either way, um, he has a record. He's had a record label for many years. He's got multiple artists, that are still doing concerts and doing everything else with him. That's one of the reasons why he should probably be let on bail, in my opinion. Um, but I met him through someone else who said because at the time NFTs were the biggest thing in the world, and so everybody was on NFTs. This was years ago, and so when I first met him,
Popping.
NFTs were like the biggest thing. NFTs were popping. He was running a record label, so we met in the context of like, hey, how can we work on NFTs?
Exactly.
We didn't run under the context of like, hey, some crip shit or whatever. Like
Yeah.
I obviously already known Snoop Dogg and some other people, from the Cali scene, but none of them had ever told me like, to avoid loose cannon because he's a fucking gang life for shit. Like so I don't know one way or another about what's going on in this case as far as like from personal experience. I can't say this is true, this isn't true. You know, I can't say that. I can say that knowing, looking at the indictment, there's multiple different ways that I can think in which he can um, possibly avoid the charges in the indictment
Exactly.
that don't involve snitching because no, let me just make this clear
That's
because there's
what.
so many people that are saying that everybody in this case is snitching. So that's the only reason why I mentioned snitching, not because I think like he's snitching, just because every single person in this case and every single person connected to it, including people who are out, like Whack 100, Adam 22, probably Vlad TV, all these people. They're saying all these people are snitching. There's so many conspiracy theories that everybody's snitching. So that's the only reason why I mentioned snitching is because of the fact that, yeah,
Yeah.
because of the fact that different people are blaming different people of snitching, and
Yeah.
and so that's the only reason why I mentioned that. I don't think
Say this real quick,
Yeah.
not even to interrupt you. It's just that Brick Baby, like last night, Luce had said on No Jumper or whatever about how he was roommates with Brick Baby. But then Brick Baby had clarified. He said they're cellmates. They're not roommates. Like they're in the same pod, in the same unit, and all of that. So they're like right next door, but they're not roommates. Like in the same room. But also, like, he did not say anything bad about Loose Cannon. And honestly, I'm gonna tell you this: I do think Brick Baby is the type that would expose it. He would expose it if someone was a snitch.
Yeah, and that's true unless like, and this is the thing, like this is the thing about it is from someone who studied like multiple federal
Yeah,
cases. Because obviously, like the Fed tried to get me for false terrorism charges, and I beat it.
yeah,
But regardless, like
amen.
before that, they only did that because I was such an expert on federal cases and how the Feds fuck up multiple people, and because I called them out on different ones of their informants. I exposed multiple different confidential informants. I exposed a whole bunch of different shit that the Feds were doing that they shouldn't have been doing,
Yeah,
and I really fucked up the Feds. And so, that's the only way that they will actually step so far out of line to allow a false terrorism case against anyone. Because
yeah,
like, when they put a terrorism case against you, the only way that you could have gotten them to step out of line is if you stepped so far against what they believe in and everything that they believe in that they were willing to like take a chance. Because normally they don't take cases that they don't know they can win.
yeah.
But if you're so much of a pain in their fucking ass, then
They'll-
they're gonna fucking take the case and they're gonna try. And they lost in this case, but either way, they did that. But what I do know is that what I do know is that yeah, I mean it's like the feds are fucked. They're fucked up, and what they do is and this is the thing with the Big U case because I've looked at the indictment, and when I read the indictment, and actually like I read the indictment only because I knew Luz, and that's the only reason why I read the indictment. But when I read the indictment, because I don't know Big U, I've never met him in my fucking life,
yeah.
but when I read the indictment, I was like, damn, it takes 51 pages in before Lucy's name even comes up. Then it comes up like one or two fucking times over some really minor shit compared to the indictment. And so, at that point, I was like, the feds are probably trying to, and there, there's all these other people in the indictment as well. And at that point, it's like it seems like the feds are like obviously Big U is their big target, right? You
Yeah.
know, and Big U's probably a real big piece of shit. And I'll say that because even though I have respect for Luce, um, clearly Luce doesn't have respect for Big U anymore. Because he calls him Big Useless. So it's like, it's not like
I,
I'm
yeah, I mean,
fucking him
yeah,
by saying fuck
like
Big
a lot
U.
of stuff that is being said out here. I don't know any of the details. At the end of the day,
No,
like
I mean I don't
I
know either. As a matter of fact,
per se either way.
yeah.
I hope that ultimately that Loose gets free and Brick Baby gets free because I love to watch their podcasts.
And I don't know anything about Big U either. As a matter of like factual opinion, or factual fact. Not a factual opinion because factual opinion is a contradictory statement, but fact because
No,
I've never met Big U. I don't know shit about him. You know, so I don't know whether all of this shit is true or not, but I do know that like if you read the indictment there's like 100 different things that they're alleging Big U of, and they're saying they have evidence of, and there's like two or three things that they're saying that they have evidence that Luce did, and like half of those have been disproven by people that were actually implicated in it. It's like Meek Mill literally, cause like part of it was like Luce said on No Jumper that he like fucking like extorted Meek Mill, and then Meek Mill comes out and says, I don't even know who the fuck Luce Cannon is. So it's like, you know, you're sitting here, and then you've got other interviews with Luce saying like, you know, podcasts are kind of like entertainment, you know, like
And that's what I'm saying. I mean, at the end of the day, bro, he can honestly be protected with this entertainment stuff, especially when the people that he's being accused of robbing are saying they never heard of him, they were never robbed, or blah blah blah. Like,
yeah,
that's a lot of
and
defense.
That and that's my personal opinion. Obviously, I don't know anything more than the average person because, like, the extent in which I have communicated with Luce has dealt with things that had nothing to do with any gang shit or whatever. Which I'm not
Exactly.
saying I'm not saying he was doing gang shit, you know, but
Yeah. No, but
it
you knew
it,
him,
it
and he's
yeah, I'm saying like if you are or you aren't doing gang shit, then either way, the extent in which someone deals with you that's not gang shit is gonna be the same. You know, like
exactly.
so
You have this
yeah.
history, and you knew him to never be doing this shit. Like, whether or not it's maybe that he hid it from you or something, but to your knowledge, he never did any of that type of
I
shit.
mean, it never would have been relevant either way, but I mean, yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, there's nothing that I have
Yeah, and
that would implicate him in any sort of
exactly.
whatever, you know. And so, but what I will say is that he does have a legitimate record label. He has a wife, he has a house, he has a kid here in California.
Yeah,
Due to the Bail Reform Act, like the Bail Reform Act states that like there should be no conditions in order to hold someone without bail. And he hasn't had his bail hearing yet, so like it's not like the judge has actually fucked up yet. I'm just saying, once the judge actually reviews it, um, the judge should let him out on bail. Now, if the judge is going extreme, then he'll put him on an ankle bracelet. But I'm sure Luce wouldn't have a problem with that. You know, like whatever. He's not trying to run. If you look at his arrest video, he didn't resist the cops at all or anything. You know,
yeah,
like his wife literally like recorded his arrest,
yeah,
and like you know he wasn't resisting. He wasn't doing anything like that. You know, he was in Las Vegas as far as I've heard when he got arrested,
yeah,
but he didn't know he was about to get arrested. It's not like he fled. You know, it's not like the indictment came out and then he went to Las Vegas. It's
yeah,
like, you know, just the morning of the time that the indictment got unsealed, you know, he was in Las Vegas. Like anyone could be anywhere, you know, and not know that shit. So it's not like he was trying to run. And then once they hit him and once they arrested him, he definitely didn't like indisputably because his entire arrest was recorded. He didn't try to run. He didn't try to resist them. He didn't try to do any of that shit. And so because of that and because of the fact that the only place that he actually has big ties to is Southern California, he has a house in Southern California. He has a wife in Southern California. He has a kid in Southern California. He has a record label in Southern California with multiple different artists that are all in Southern California. You know, like there's no reason why the judge should not grant him bail. If the judge wants to put a fucking like GPS monitor on his ankle, then you know whatever, you know, do that. But
bail
um,
is out the question.
yeah,
Is how you're taking. Yeah,
no, and not even bail. Like oh shit. Oh yeah, you're back. Okay, yeah, you're back. Kind of. Now you're not back again.
hey, do you hear me? Do you hear me?
Yeah, now I do. Yeah, now I do. Yeah, yeah. You cut off for a minute. But yeah, no, what I'm saying is like in the feds, like so I don't even think he should require bail, but you know, if they want to put a bail, then they can put a reasonable bail, whatever.
Yeah.
But in the feds, no matter what, no matter who you are, no matter what your case is, if you actually get out of pretrial release means you're being charged with something and it's before the trial. So no matter what it is, no matter what validity it has or anything like that, it could be a completely invalid charge, but you're still out before trial. You still have to check in with federal
Why?
probation, like once or twice a month.
No, that's the text. It's on a YouTube video.
Yeah, but I mean,
Anyway, sorry, I had a large debate.
yeah, no, but I mean, in the fact it's like, um, so due to the Bail Reform Act of 1984, it's it literally states that like the only way to hold someone without bail is if the judge believes that no set of conditions can make it so that that person shows up for trial or is not a continuous threat to society.
Yeah.
Okay, if you look at the indictment, everything that was so even if you take the indictment as true, which I don't take indictments as true, but no, but let's say you do.
Hypo-
Let's give the feds the benefit of the doubt in this hypothetical situation. I'm saying hypothetical, not saying factual. I'm saying hypothetical. Let's give the feds hypothetically the benefit of the doubt.
yeah.
Everything they're accusing Moose of is years ago. Like 2 or 3 years ago. So even if hypothetically you were to, and all of it is small shit. It's not like because you got to realize. So the thing is, like the feds. So like people will look at Luce's case and be like, oh, he's facing a maximum of 20 years, but you got to realize moving fireworks across state lines is also a maximum of 20 years. Like almost every Fed charge is a maximum of 20 years if it's not life. If it's life, then it's different. It's life, but anything that's not life, almost every federal charge is literally like a maximum of 20 years. Like if you move fireworks across state lines from one state where it's legal and one state where it's not legal, that's fireworks. Like you can move fucking like fucking snap crackers or whatever. Those things you throw out the ground and they fucking
It's 20.
pop. Like whatever. You can innocuous fireworks, and you can literally still get something that's fucking 20 years maximum or maximum sentence. So in the feds to say like this is 20 years maximum sentence doesn't say this is like really that big of a crime. But people often don't realize or know that, and so um when it comes to loose, it's a matter of like uh it's been fucking many years before the latest accusation that they have. So it's like there's no public threat to him getting let out that they can actually point to. They don't as far as right now, I mean, I guess it's possible they have evidence they haven't released, but it's probably not likely. As far as like criminal charges, and so if you can't release any reason or anything that he's done recently that would necessitate him being a public danger, and then on top of that, he has a kid, he has a house, he has a legitimate business, he has all this shit, then you should probably let him out, you know, pending pretrial release. He's probably a good candidate for pretrial release because the Bail Reform Act of 1984 stated that only people who no conditions would allow them would allow them to either not be a danger to society or not show up. You know, those are the only two reasons why a judge under the Bail Reform Act should allow somebody to not be released on pretrial release. Um, they can impose conditions. They can say, hey, you can't do this, you can't do that. They can also say like, hey, we're gonna put you on a bracelet. They can say, all this other shit. But if they're not gonna if they're gonna hold you without bail, the judge literally has to rule that no set of conditions will make it so that you aren't either a danger to society or aren't gonna show up. In Luce's case, uh, and like I said, I don't know enough about like Big U. I don't know enough about well, actually I do know the indictment on Big U is pretty fucking strong.
Yeah,
But I don't know enough about Brick Baby. I don't know about any of those other people.
I know
To say
it
whether
was
or not that
not a machine
counts.
gun, but
Yeah,
that's all.
no. What I do know about Luce though is that like in a logical sense, there's no set of conditions that in which like logically you could say he's not going to show up for court, or that he's going to, before he shows up for court and this is all over, going to be a danger to society,
Exactly.
because everything he's accused of is years ago. And so and also and I'm not even saying everything he's accused of is true. Like I don't know whether it's true or not. Like um, uh, I'm just being honest. I know this is a dude who has always shown me respect, and I always show him respect. But at the same time, like nobody knows everybody's life, so I can't say whether this shit's true or not. I can say that some of it has been discredited. Like the Meek Mill shit. Like Meek Mill literally said, like this shit's untrue. So some of it's been discredited. I can also say that different people uh, are entertainers, and so they end up, going under entertainment. They end up trying to entertain, and podcasts aren't much different than a fucking Netflix series or whatever. So I can say that, but um, but what I will say is that Luce has a fucking house. He has a wife. He has a kid. All that are local to Southern California. So like he and he has a business. Like if he were to flee, he would have nothing.
Yeah, there's
So
no reason he'd flee.
he,
I
he,
don't. I
he's
don't think
not
he should not
flagrant.
be
Yeah.
available to get bail. I don't think he should.
No. Yeah. Exactly. And he hasn't had his bail hearing yet, so he hasn't been denied yet. But what I'm saying is he's definitely not a flight risk, because every aspect of his life that anyone would care about is in Southern California. So, like, why the fuck would you flee Southern California? It wouldn't make any sense. You
Exactly.
But and as far as whether he's a public danger, every accusation that you're making against him, one, involves Big U, who's not going to get out under bail. Like Big U's not going to get bail. Like let's just be honest. Big U's not going to get. But even if Big U did get bail, like Big U and Luce fell out a long time ago. Like that's pretty clear. And so, but either way, Big U's not going to get bail. So everything that you're accusing him of being a public safety risk for, and I'm not saying the accusations are true. I'm just saying like if you give the feds the benefit of the doubt, which yeah, I mean the feds are fucked. You generally shouldn't give the feds the benefit of the doubt, but let's just be very, very liberal here and give them the benefit of the doubt and say everything they're saying is true. There's still no way you can pretend that like Luce is a public safety risk, because even if everything they say is true, it actually rests on him having a relationship with Big U and him doing things for Big U or whatever, you know. And that's if you accept that everything they say is true, which I would never do in the Fed with the Feds. You know, Feds are fucking liars. But either way, you know, the Feds said I was a fucking terrorist, and then they eventually backed down on that. They eventually literally in court records said that they had no evidence of it. But you know, they at one point said I was. You know, so I I'm the last
Yeah,
person to say, you know, I believe what the Feds are saying is true, but I'm saying even worst case scenario, like if the judges thinking what,
I
because
like the black
judges
one.
generally think worst case scenario, because they have to, because like if the judge has to think like, you know, if I let somebody out and you know some shit happens, then that's gonna hurt me, that's gonna make me look bad, you know. So judges have to often think on worst case scenario, but even if you're the judge and you're thinking worst case scenario, there's
Yeah,
still no reason why Luce would create a public safety risk being let on out on bail. And there's
that's what I'm
also no
saying.
reason why he'd be a flight risk, you
That's
know.
what I'm trying
So
to say. It's like there's no reason he's a flight risk. Let him prove his innocence from the outside. I support that. I'm saying right now, free loose cannon. Let him fight it from the outside. I agree with that.
yeah, I mean obviously he'd still have to like the baseline when you're in the feds, most people don't realize like in federal court, because state courts generally don't work this way. The baseline is you have to check in with the federal probation office like once or twice a month. You know,
Yeah,
so the judge that's everybody. That doesn't matter how serious your case is. That doesn't matter what your case is. Every single person who's let out on pretrial release, whether there's bail or it's just a signature bond or whatever, you know, everyone who's let out on pretrial release has to actually check in with the federal probation office that's local to them once or twice a month, which is fine. But
yeah,
like, I don't think there's any reason why Luce wouldn't do that, you know, because you know all you gotta do is like you go in, you say, hey, you know, I'm not committing crimes, I'm doing whatever, you know, I'm taking the effort to go in, you know, and then until the trial's over, that's all you have to do. It's once or twice a month, go into the federal probation office, you know, say, hey, I'm doing. You know, I'm doing good. You know, I'm just focusing on my business. I'm focused on my life. I'm focused on my kid whatever you know, whatever the fuck his situation is. You know, in Lucy's situation, he would go into the federal probation office and he would say, "Hey, you know, focus on my wife. I'm focused on my record label. I'm focusing on my kid. You know, and that's all I'm doing." And you know, the federal probation officer would be like, "Okay, cool. Thanks for coming in. Come in again in another 2 weeks or a month or whatever you the judge required." You know, and that would be all it was. You
yeah.
know, and but I don't think there's much of any chance he wouldn't do that.
There's no,
You know,
no chance he
yeah,
wouldn't do that. I truly believe that he would honor that and follow through and be a great probationer.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's nothing to suggest that he wouldn't, and
Yeah,
so bail once his bail hearing comes up, which it hasn't yet, the judge hasn't actually said he's being held without bail yet. He hasn't had a bail hearing, but once it does, I think that any judge that would rule that he should not get bail is fucking up and is going
I,
against the Bail Reform Act
I,
of 1984.
yeah, and they're biased.
Hmm.
Objectively, let's say it
Yeah,
clearly. If
yeah.
they're going against him getting a chance when it's like already all the stuff that you want to say that he even said himself, the other people that are the victims, Meek Mill, Rick Ross, Meek Mill is saying that never happened. That means that
Yeah.
he was just saying stuff to be getting the cloud off it or whatever. Or maybe it did happen or whatever, but the thing is, regardless, let them prove that in court. They
I mean, entertainment is entertainment at the end of the day. You
yeah,
know, it's like if you look at let's take the movie The Pursuit of Happiness for instance, right? Um, the dude in The Pursuit of Happiness, the dude that was made out of, I actually met, um, and you know, in that movie, 90% of the movie or 80% of the movie or some shit he said was correct. But they also added some other shit for entertainment. You know,
That's what I'm trying to say.
so that's the thing. It's like and that's the thing with losers. Like maybe some things he said were correct, but maybe some of them were just
And
added for
I'm
entertainment.
not calling him a liar. I'm just saying that, like, giving him the benefit of the doubt of, hey, maybe some things he exaggerated a little bit. Maybe something, like, you get what I'm saying? Maybe there's
No,
certain
it's not calling someone a liar. You're on a podcast. A podcast is kind of like a movie. Like it's entertainment. It's kind
exactly.
of like a movie plot. So it's like sometimes you may embellish things a little
And
bit. You
there's
know,
nothing wrong with that.
no,
There's
there's nothing
nothing
wrong with that. It doesn't mean you're lying. It doesn't mean you're a piece of shit or anything like that.
exactly
It just
where I'm at.
it just means you're making entertainment. People make entertainment all the time, and it's like it's like we all know that Luce was really cool with Nipsey. You know, the interesting part about
He
this is
said
I'm
himself,
surprised. I'm
husband is
surprised
not,
YG hasn't spoken.
huh?
I'm
What
surprised,
happened?
I'm surprised YG hasn't spoken. Um,
Well, yeah, I'm not gonna put nothing on YG. I fuck with YG. Actually, YG's one of my favorite rappers, like from
no,
back in the day.
that's
When
not a
he
diss.
started-
I'm just
But
no, that's not a diss. I'm just saying.
oh,
I'm
I
just
get
saying.
why didn't he talk about the whole issue?
Yeah,
I think YG
because
is just not a podcast guy. He's just I that's what I
yeah,
think. And no disrespect, no shade. YG, I fuck with you. When I started rapping, you were one of my favorite rappers. But I think honestly, you're just not a podcast guy. That's why
but
people could say, why
but
didn't
even if he's not a podcast guy, I think that YG should have probably said something about the case because the song there may or may not be some unreleased songs, and I may or may not know some shit about that with Nipsey Hussle and Loose Cannon. But the song that is out with Loose Cannon and Nipsey Hussle also is what includes YG. It's
yeah, I
YG, Nipsey Hussle, and Loose Cannon.
no,
So they're obviously really close. So like
yeah, they have
personally,
type of relationship and you have evidence of that and like I get
no,
it. It's
I
just
don't have. It's not. I have evidence of that. I mean, you can Google
it's
search
public.
Loose Cannon Nipsey Hussle and YG's also in the song. They're all three of them are in the song. So it's like, and this is before any of them took off. And so it's like,
Other
you know,
before they pull up. Yeah, that's
yeah.
no,
So I
I
mean,
get that because like look, at the same time, do you know what it makes me think about, bro? Is that there was this dude that I knew he was in the street life and blah blah blah, but he was a rapper and I was friends with him
give me
and
a second. I'm gonna listen, but I gotta take a piss. So I'm gonna take my camera and mic off.
oh yeah, you should probably do that. Yeah. But anyways, what I'm trying to say, I'll just speak it while I know you're listening. So pretty much like I knew that dude was my homeboy and all of that, but literally one of the dudes that was connected to his friends snaked me out and caused the whole situation and pretty much I was angry. I was like, I hit him up. I'm like, yo, bro, why aren't you like calling this guy out? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And the end of the day, it's like he's just not that type of guy. He's not a podcaster. You know what I mean? He's not a content guy. He's a rapper, yes, but he's not a podcaster. So like I accepted that and we got past it and we still watch each other's stories, like each other's posts, talk to each other. Like we're still cool. Like we're cool with each other. But like ultimately at first I was like, "Yo, bro, how are you going to let this guy snake me out?" and all this stuff. You already told me you don't like this guy and all this other shit, but it is what it is. I just had to let it be. I just had to let it be. Some people are not into that content type of world. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, the thing is, like, that actually was timed really fucking well. But the thing is, like, when you go like loose YG and Nipsey, they all in some way kind of like reciprocally made each other. You know, they they were a crew before any of them were anybody. And like
No,
and
I
that's
believe you, bro. I get it, bro. And don't worry, that's why I got mad at that dude, bro. And
that's
you
what that,
gotta
but that's what I'm saying. Like why
talk
G doesn't have
about
to go
that,
hard,
but you gotta
but
shave the back of your head, bro.
yeah, and why G doesn't have to go hard, but I think he should at least say like free loose cannon, at least you know.
Well, I respect that. I respect that. And the thing is, my homeboy probably would have did that for me. Like, at the end of the day, there were certain times where he didn't do that or whatever. But when it came to one of our mutual friends died, he commented, "Rest in peace." So it's like when it comes down to real time, you gotta be real. You gotta be real.
Yeah, I mean, and I get the whole like rest in peace shit and whatever.
Yeah, but like
And you,
be just till death. It shouldn't be just a death.
yeah, no,
It should be it should be
yeah, no,
jail
I mean,
and all that.
yeah, I mean, if you get locked up, then motherfuckers should have your back at the end of the day.
I
And you
agree with
know,
I agree with you saying that, bro. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not someone against you on that. I just
I mean,
I get why
unless it's like
niggas
some
be
child
scared.
crime or something,
Certain niggas
unless it's
be scared to say that.
yeah, unless it's some like child crime or some like rape that has like real
Oh no,
decent evidence or some shit like that.
I'm saying that's not even what I'm saying. Like, yeah, like yo, like I beat Matrix attacks before. I'm
No, no,
open about that.
no.
Even
I'll fucking turn I'll fucking turn my biggest homeboy over if it's a if he turns out to be a fucking chomo
yeah,
and the
yeah.
evidence is there.
What about if your biggest homeboy beats a false rape accusation? Are you gonna stand up and say, "Yo, he beat a Matrix attack"?
Yeah, no. If it's a false record, but the thing is, like, there's there's levels to that shit. So it's like when it comes to rape accusations, there's levels to it. There's like the level of like everything was caught on camera and like clearly like that wasn't wanted and it happened anyways. There's that level, and in that case, I can't stand behind it. Then there's the level of like someone accused somebody. In that case, then I have to wait until more evidence comes out and everything else to actually like judge,
That
everything else.
brings up one point for me. I want to talk to you about what you think about the Russell Brand allegations. Me, I'm against it. I believe it's all political
I
because
haven't heard anything. I haven't heard anything about it. To be
every
honest with you, so we can't
it's
talk about
number
that. Yeah.
one trending topic, but pretty much every single charge is over 20 years old.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know shit about that. I don't talk about shit I don't know anything about.
Okay, no,
Um, and so,
I'm
so yeah, so that's about mine. But what I will say is that when it comes to accusations in general, I tend to
yeah,
wait when it comes to somebody that actually like truly respect before I completely cut them off and say they're a piece of
yeah,
shit. I tend to wait until like the evidence comes out. You
right.
know, there may be more evidence there. There may not be, but I tend to wait till there's more evidence comes. But like if it's something like you're literally like just caught on camera and you just fucking like rape someone, then fuck you. You're done.
Yeah,
I'm done with you. You know.
exactly.
At the
No,
end of the day,
nobody.
so that's
What
because I don't
people are saying
support rape.
is this: if someone has like literally this type of proof that it's like it's 20 years old type of thing, or it's like a thing that was recent.
I mean, even if it's 20 years old, though, I still don't disagree that, like,
Yeah,
if it was
true.
legitimate,
There's
if it was legitimate, like,
if
if you legitimately rape someone, I think for the rest of your life, you should be able to be held accountable for that. Like, if you legitimately do that.
legitimately did it, but if you didn't do it and you're
No, if you did, no, if you didn't do it, that's another story. But if you did legitimately do it, I don't think there's any point in which you should in your life you shouldn't be held accountable for that. I don't.
I don't
You know.
agree.
I don't think just because 20 years passed, you shouldn't be held accountable for that.
Yeah, of course.
But
That's a there's no
yeah,
statute of limitations in New
no,
York, at least, and
no, and there shouldn't be. There shouldn't be. Um,
I think there
and,
should. But what I think there should be is if it's fake, I think that that woman should be arrested. I'm not gonna lie to you.
no. I do think that women who have been proven to have falsely made accusations of rape should be given the same prison sentences as someone who had raped somebody. I think that, you know,
Amen.
I,
Amen. Love
I
that you
believe in
said
that.
that,
No.
bro. I love that you said that because in Britain, that's the law. In Britain, they get charged. I don't think it's the same, but I think they get charged with time, prison
You
time.
know, because like I already told you, there was a chick back in Madison, Wisconsin, like, and like this was before like Ring was a thing, but Ring doorbells weren't a thing. But there was a private company you could hire called Vivint, and Vivint had a doorbell camera,
Yeah.
and then there were also like IP cameras in your house you could put up
Yeah.
through Vivint. So my whole house was cameraed up,
Yeah.
you know, and so. Um,
Yeah.
this woman met me at the bar, at the Irish bar. You know, we had some drinks, whatever. Came back to my house, and then after she came to my house, you know, we ended up, you know, going down to my bedroom and doing our shit or
It's
whatever. And then we ended up going back upstairs, and we ended up making out outside of the house, which the doorbell camera caught after we had sex. And then she left and went home.
yeah,
Later on, the boyfriend uh, had found, I don't
found
know, maybe he was eating her out and it was like more salty than normal
oh,
or whatever. I don't know.
uh,
I don't know. I don't know how the fuck it happened.
man,
But
but
nonetheless, her boyfriend
I
somehow
get it.
found out
Uh,
that her boyfriend
what?
somehow found out that she cheated on him. I didn't even know she had a boyfriend, but her boyfriend somehow found out she cheated on him. And so the way that she dealt with that was to call the cops and say that I raped her, right? So, but the thing is, like, at that time, and this was long before the technology that's available now was commonly available, but I still had the latest technology that was available. And that's the only thing that saved me. It was the fact that you know she that I was able to show the cops from the time she entered my house to time, we obviously had sex. We did have sex. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't like it wasn't like we didn't. But at the time she left, I was able to show the cops all those videos. Had I not been able to do that, I would have been charged with rape because she was
yeah,
accusing me of raping her. But when the cops came to my house, I was like, "Here's all the videos. Here's the minute she entered my house
and the minute she left,
to the minute she left, yeah, and I can show you everything that happened, everything she said, all her facial expressions, everything else,
that's
and then they were like, "There's literally no way we can construe it. There's literally no way any DA can construe this as anything other than like consensual sex, you know." And so, but she thought that she could like try to convince me, she could try to like accuse me of rape in order to like make her boyfriend not leave her or whatever, you know.
and that's
But
that's come on, bro.
and I didn't even know she had a boyfriend, to be
And
honest. Like, what you met his
fault,
boyfriend?
not your fault. That's not your
No,
fault.
no, it isn't. No, it isn't.
That,
No, I don't feel
that
bad about it either.
about having a boyfriend, bro. Tell me that.
No, I don't feel bad about it either. I don't feel bad if she had a boyfriend that I didn't know about or whatever. I didn't know about it. But at the end of the day, like, if I didn't have all those cameras there, that shit would have gone a different way, you know. And so I'm not saying that's the majority of rape accusations or
And
whatever, but what I'm saying
that
is
real
what
rape
I'm
are not real. Well, people
yeah what I'm saying is that like rape and rape culture are real things, but also there are false accusations are also real things, you know, and so you gotta take both into effect when it comes to that situation.
Against this whole promotion of what is rape culture when it absolves women from falsely accusing.
I mean, I don't think it necessarily absolves them. I just think like I don't know.
Like,
I think
tell me if there's one girl that is super about rape culture that if you told her you were falsely accused, she wouldn't still think you're a rapist.
I mean, if I get my story, there's no way anyone could
Yeah,
think otherwise because
story
I
is
had the video long before.
story is
I
all
mean, nowadays technology is so good that like people actually like assume different things if there's a camera there. But like
yeah,
back then was a different story. This
camera.
was like
Let
long before
on the
technology.
camera and then answer it. Like you know that these certain girls, like unless they watch a video that proves that there was nothing happening, they're gonna just call you a rapist. They're gonna. It's called believe all women, and that movement is toxic. That movement's objectively toxic.
Yeah, no, and I don't think it's a matter of believe all women. Um,
And I'm
but
not saying believe all men either. I
all
don't think you
men.
should believe all men.
But also the other thing that also people don't talk about is men that are raped. There are actually men that are raped as well. You know, by women. You know, but regardless, you don't believe all everything. Like
Exactly.
don't believe all everything is the thing. And so you know let the evidence come out. Let you know all this shit come out, and then make your decision.
But the
And
is us being in the middle ground on this issue, it got me a bunch of hate. And
well,
I'll own that. I got a bunch of hate just for being on the middle ground and saying, what does the evidence say? Just for saying I'm not going to believe what they say about Russell Brand or Andrew Tate or anything until I see the evidence. And honestly, for Andrew Tate, all the evidence that I've seen has said that he's been set up.
yeah, I mean, I haven't had the time to give a fuck about that case. So, I mean,
But I'm
I can't
saying
talk about Andrew Tate or Russell Brand, you know, because I just haven't had the time to actually care about those cases. So I can't say one way or another. I'm not saying that they're rapists. I'm not saying they're not. I'm just saying, you know, like I just haven't had the time to actually deal with that, you know, because you know, I always keep it real. You know,
exactly.
I always keep it real with you. So I'm not about to agree with you or disagree with you just because of you know whatever you
That
know.
has been released, and I've shown you some of it, but I know you haven't seen it all, and I know you're not too interested in it. But for the Andrew Tate case, there's evidence of the only girls that actually publicly like discredited him and stuff like that. There's group text of them saying that if we lie and we cry when the police come, we will get a Netflix documentary. And to me, that's enough evidence to say that those women are liars.
I mean, I guess I wouldn't necessarily make such a blanket statement. I would say in most cases yes, but not always necessarily yes
They're
as well
agreeing to
because Andrew Tate is so
lie,
large.
though, on text. They're on text.
Uh,
Mr.
no, I'm just saying Andrew Tate is so large that like
Yeah,
even if it was true, you would still get a Netflix documentary about it. You know,
yeah,
so it's like
okay.
so but I'm not saying necessarily it's true or not because of that. I'm just saying because they made that statement does not necessarily mean that it
It,
wasn't true.
it could
Um
mean that they're lying. I think, like, I don't feel wrong
no,
saying that if I see
it could
those
mean they're lying. Yes, I
girls,
agree.
if I see those girls sending a text to each other saying that, hey, let's lie and let's cry, I can't believe that they're honest victims.
I mean, if they're saying let's lie and let's cry, then you know that they're saying let's lie, and at the end of the day, let's lie, let's lie. But what I'm
Exactly
saying,
why.
all I'm saying is that
When you back in Miami, homie?
Yeah, hopefully soon. I really hope I'm back in Miami soon because I got a whole crew in Miami, and I fucking love my
Yo,
fucking Miami crew. I
bro, bro,
fucking
bro.
I
No,
fucking
I've been
love
telling
my
you.
Miami homies. I fucking love my
When you
Miami
go to Miami,
Miami.
can you bring me with you, bro? I will come be your assistant, whatever the fuck it takes, bro.
You know, no, I fucking love my Miami homies, and uh and
I'm giving you a legitimate a question.
what's up?
When you go to Miami, can I come through with you, bro? Can you fly me out, bro? I'll come with you. Be your assistant, whatever the fuck you.
Probably, probably.
Okay. See
Yeah,
what I'm saying? But it's like, yeah, what I'm saying about that Andrew Tate situation, I feel like we kind of we got to the bottom of it.
yeah.
But the Russell Brand situation, there is um there is a lot of work we got to do on there. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, like, yeah. I mean, it's and that's the thing. Like, I haven't seen a single fucking thing about Russell Brand situation, so I can't actually um, talk about it from a matter of actual logic or whatever. And I'm not the type of person to like sit here and bullshit and like try to like
Yeah,
make shit up like I know some shit that I don't know. If I don't know anything about the situation, I haven't like actually studied or looked at it,
yeah,
then then I'm going to then I'm gonna be honest with everybody. I'm not about to front and be like, oh yeah, I know all this and I know all that and blah blah blah. That's not how I work. That's not how I operate.
and
Uh,
anybody watching this chat, share it.
yeah. So because I don't know shit about the Russell Brand situation, I can't pretend to be an expert or talk about it. You know.
All I know is this: is that reading Russell Brand's books changed my life, and I know that it wasn't until he started to get political that people started making up charges on him. And I can't act like I don't notice that that is the cause. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's possible.
You're right.
I just
Guarantee.
I don't know.
Not
Like
saying
at the end of the day, like you already know, at the end of the day, I'm not gonna talk about shit I don't know about. Like
you're right.
like if
You're right. Fuck that
I
topic. Fuck that
I
topic.
I I literally haven't heard about Russell Brand in like the last 2 years. So like it's about like it's like you're bringing up shit right now, and I literally haven't seen a single story about him in 2 years. So it's like I literally cannot talk in any sort of sense about what's going on with
All right,
him or
bro,
what how
bro.
it is or anything like
Look,
that.
respectfully, I want to ask you this.
But I also can't take your word for it either
Exactly.
because sometimes me and you
I'm biased.
disagree.
I'm
Sometimes
biased.
no,
I'm
because
biased.
no, because sometimes me and you disagree on some shit. And so
Yeah, but this is not
it's not it's not I'm saying you're lying. I'm just saying, like I don't just always disagree agree with what you say. And so that's why I can't just like take your word for it.
I mean, but the thing is, do you want people around you that you always agree with?
No, nobody does. That's the reason why you're still around me.
All right, my nigga,
If
my
if
nigga.
if
Like, I'm
if I
full
if
high.
I if I did, I would have cut you off a long time ago. You know,
Exactly,
but you
exactly.
know, but no, I don't want people around me that always agree with me. If I did, like, I would cut you off a long time ago because we've had a bunch of fucking disagreements.
Yeah,
And so
we
but you
shit,
know,
man.
so
We
I would
live.
have been like, I would have just been like, fuck Joker and cut you off like probably months ago. And so if all I wanted was people that agree with me around me. But what I'm saying is that I still cannot just take someone else's word for it on some
No,
topic that I
hey,
don't know anything about.
why I fuck with you, and that's why I fuck with not even just you, other people. That's why I fuck with Vinny. That's why I fuck with Vinny. Is because he's a rock star dude. He's not a Republican, but the thing is, he understands that I am super against one thing that the Democrats were pushing, which was the trans kids, and he respected that. And I was like, all right, if you're not against me on that, I fuck with you. And you said to me yourself, you're like, yo, like I might agree with you on this shit, but it's not something I really am gonna vote on. And
Yeah,
I said
I don't really care
I
about that shit,
respect
being
that.
honest.
That's what I said. Because the end of the day is you didn't say you agree with that. You didn't say like, yo, like I want kids to have sex changes. You know what
No,
I'm saying?
I said I just don't really give a shit about that.
Exactly, exactly. But you said like, yo, I might agree with you on certain shit, but the end of the day is like, it's not something I give a fuck about. Remember?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, and I agree with you on some shit, and I disagree with you on some shit, and there's some shit that I just don't give a fuck enough about to agree or disagree. You know, I mean, it's like,
Exactly.
you know, it's not my issue.
That's why I was like, yo, this is my homeboy right here. He might not agree with everything I say, but I know that he knows I'm only gonna go from my real heart on what I believe in. You know
Yeah,
what I
I
mean?
mean,
I
that's,
felt like you
that's,
understood me. That's what I'm trying to say.
you know, no, at the end of the day, that's all that matters. You know, if people are going with what they truly feel, you know, that's what really matters. But also a problem with society is also one issue voters, though. I will say that
I get
I I I I do think that like people should expand the horizons beyond their most passionate issue. Um,
I get you, but at the same time, do you want someone to sacrifice what's most important to them to vote with a certain party,
and
left or
it's not necessarily sacrificing. I mean, I don't know. It's like I, I just don't get it because there's nothing that's so and I understand that because I feel this way doesn't mean everyone else should.
yeah,
That part of being
yeah.
a
What?
human being is realizing that the way you feel should not be the way everyone else feels.
Yeah.
But there's nothing that I feel so strongly about that
I mean,
I
my
would
kid's penis. I'm sorry, my kid's
force
penis.
you.
I put above everything else, and I voted above. With I was like, my kid keeping his penis. I put that above everything else. And hey, call me fucked up for it, whatever. But the thing is, the reason is this: when I met his mom, the day I met his mom, she got pregnant. And then she later told me that in high school, she wanted to transition herself and that she thinks kids can be transitioned. She told me all that shit after she was already pregnant, bro. I was manipulated. If it was a different situation, I would get what you're saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, um,
I mean, I was myself put in a fucked up situation, bro. I was not I would have never had a kid with a girl that believed in this shit if I knew she believed in it.
well, I mean, I guess it's just an argument for before you stick your dick in a bitch, you should probably figure out what they believe in multiple different situations. And I guess probably you've learned that lesson for your
I
own
did.
personal
I learned it
values.
the
For
hard
your own
way.
personal
I
values,
learned it the
you've
hard way.
learned that lesson. You know, is that like before you stick your dick in a bitch, you should probably figure out you know what she believes in. And um and, and, and that's the thing. And for me personally, like I've never been there. I can't talk about how I would feel in such a situation, you know. So I can't sit here and pretend like, you know, I'd be
To do it to herself, get her
whatever,
cut
you
off.
know.
She wanted to get her own tits cut off as a high school, and that she believes that kids should be able to do that. You know what I
Well,
mean?
at the end of the day, like you fucked her and created a kid after high school. So if you knew she wanted to get her own tits cut off
No, I
after high
didn't.
school,
I
you
didn't
should
know
be
that when
like,
I fucked her the first time. She got pregnant the first day I fucked her.
okay, well then you should have more conversation the
Yeah,
first day,
that's on
in
my.
my opinion.
That's on.
You know,
But she,
at, at the end of the day, you're still somewhat responsible because you should have more conversation. You should have realized that beforehand. Because if if
I mean,
if that's
in my eyes, I'll tell you this. In my eyes, she targeted me because she knew, because she went to high school with my brothers, that my family was rich. She knew my family was rich. So she chose me, she targeted me, and got a kid out of me because I'm over 6 feet. My dad was literally got an athletic sponsorship from an Ivy League college. So it's like literally I'm 6 foot plus. My dad was an Ivy League prospect for a football team. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like I was targeted, bro, in a major way. I mean, we could take it however anyone wants to take it and say it should be my fault, it
this
should be her fault.
this
But
is
at the
how
end of
much
the day,
vodka you should put in your drink. Just to be honest, like this is how much vodka you should put in your drink.
I
Uh,
vodka until Easter. I took it off for
yeah,
Lent, but
that's the vodka. I'm gonna put some fucking
but I'm drinking rum though.
what is this? This is Ocean Spray White Cranberry times Strawberry.
But
And then I'm gonna put
saying
some
though, right?
fucking blue
Do you get
curacao
what
syrup
I'm
in this
saying?
shit.
Do you get
What's
what
up?
I'm saying? How I was targeted?
I mean, no, I kind of always saying, but also like
Like
you still have
I should have more.
really the fact that you did not actually talk about that beforehand.
I
You
I
know,
didn't realize that it was I didn't realize that she was ovulating, bro. She knew she was ovulating the day she had sex with me. I did not know that. She targeted me.
it it
She
should it shouldn't really it shouldn't really matter though because like to be honest, he probably didn't know that either. As
no,
far as like she probably
it,
wasn't taking the ovulation test. Like she probably wasn't taking the ovulation test, but also at the same point, it's like you should still talk about these things before you have fucking
I'll
unprotected
never
sex with
look.
it.
I understand what you're saying. I would never let it happen again. I personally will take the steps to make sure it doesn't happen again. But the end of the day is when I was 25 years old and I was just a rap guy that only worried about being a rapper and wanted to have as much sex as I could have, I did not think she was going to get pregnant.
Yeah, I mean, but and the thing is, like, I'm not saying you're right and she's wrong. I'm just saying, like, you do have some responsibility in the situation.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying though, right? At the same time though, like I literally in my mind, bro, I feel like I was targeted and chosen to fucking get my DNA.
Yeah, I mean, like, really, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, like, you can't, you can't get fixated on someone else's issue behind what you did. You have to
Yeah,
be
all I know is that I
like
was maliciously targeted to fucking
because
steal my DNA.
I mean I don't know.
You, you know what I'm saying, bro? I get what you're saying. I understand why you don't want to, like, you know what I mean. But at the end of the day, I
And also
I was victimized in this
to
situation.
protect her. It's to protect her. This is just saying for anyone who's listening to this shit, like, you know, like you need to fucking have these conversations before you fucking nut in a bitch. Like you need to have these fucking conversations. And if you don't, then you have some level of responsibility for whatever the fuck happens
Know
either
that
way.
I was 25 and I was just thinking I'm just a rapper. I just have an Instagram. I want to have sex and blah blah blah. I didn't understand that. I didn't understand it and I was stupid and I was wrong. And I can admit that. But the thing is, I can't admit that like she didn't know that she was ovulating, that she chose me to fucking steal my DNA and take my son from me. You know what I mean?
And unless
Like,
unless you take an ovulation test, you generally don't know you're ovulating.
well, you
Like
have a
there's like tests for
you
that shit.
have
But yeah.
concept like there are ways to understand whether or not you're currently more ovulating or less ovulating, like stuff like that. Like there are ways to understand it. I'm not saying that she perfectly knew that she would get pregnant that day, and we did have
No,
sex
no,
multiple
no,
days.
no. But there's ways for you to understand it too if you actually understand how a woman's vagina works.
And
Like
and
because probably you should be like licking and fingering that shit first. And if that shit is like really thick and white, then they're probably ovulating. If it's really thick and white, they're probably ovulating. Like there's biological signs that you as a man can also tell whether you're ovulating or not, or probably ovulating.
as a 25-year-old, I didn't know anything about that, bro. Honestly, I do feel that she
You
knew more than
cool.
me whether or not she was ovulating. And she told me perfectly with words, yes, come in me. And she didn't say she was going to get pregnant.
I don't know. I don't think most women know when they're ovulating or not. Uh,
What?
unless they're like fingering themselves or whatever, or taking an ovulation test. Uh, ovulation tests wouldn't exist if
Yeah,
most
this,
women.
at the end of the day, bro, I don't want to burn the video about this, bro. Like,
You know,
you know, no,
no, I'm not. I'm not
I don't
saying.
want to
I'm not saying that
against me
it's.
in family court and saying like, oh, she never targeted you or whatever, when that
No,
is the truth.
well,
She
no. What is wrong is that she's trying to take your son from you. That's what's wrong.
is tr-
That I'll agree with. No, that I'll agree with. After the fact, that I'll agree with. When it comes to the actual before it happened,
I do believe
then
it, but I
then me and you may have some disagreements there. But regardless, when it comes to whether or not a woman would try to take a child from a man, we don't have disagreements. That's fucking wrong in
amen,
every case.
amen,
And, and,
amen.
and I'll agree with that.
Yeah, amen.
I'll,
You're the
I'll
one
agree
that
that
wrote
it's
the
wrong.
letter of support for me.
No,
You
I
know
did
what I
write
mean?
a letter support for you because I believe that every woman who tries to take a child who's already born away from a father who wants to be there is wrong. Unless no, there's very
Unless
few
you had,
situations.
yeah,
No. There's very few exceptions. Like if the father is like like a child molester, like a child beater or some shit like that, then in those cases, then I agree the court should take the child away from the father. But that's not your case. That has nothing to do with your case. But what I'm saying is like there are certain small situations that I do agree that a father should be taken away from their child.
yeah,
But also there are some mothers in those situations that should be taken away from a child too. They're in the same situation. There's some mothers who are child molesters. There are some mothers who are child abusers.
yeah.
And they should be taken away as well. But so I'm not saying this just because of fathers, but I'm saying like there are some situations where I believe a parent should be taken away from their children. But I do know also that doesn't apply to you. That's why I wrote you the letter that I wrote to hopefully in one day help your fucking case.
I mean,
But
she,
regardless,
she got the she chose
once.
she chose to ignore it. She got the letter. The lawyer has the letter. I sent it,
Yeah.
so you know what I mean?
But once that child is born, I do agree that any parent that wants to be in that child's life, either one of the two parents, because there's only two parents, there's never more than two parents in a child's
Yeah,
life. But there's only two parents. The only two parents that want to be, I do believe that they should, outside of those extreme circumstances that I mentioned, those two parents should be able to be equally involved in that child's life. and,
Amen.
and
They
that's what
should.
I believe.
They should.
You know, yeah, I believe every child deserves a mother and a father, and whether together or not is not. Uh,
It's about if they want the kid.
yeah, it's about whether together or not. It's not a big thing. It's more about um whether or not they care about their kid and they want to be in their kid's life, and if they do, then I think they should be, you know, yeah, equally, and that's the way that's the way I view it. Um, and I don't think the court should view it any other way, unless there's like extreme circumstances, you know.
Yes,
Um,
and I agree. But yo, bro, it's best that we end this video now and we reconvene.
yeah, sounds good. All right, whatever works.
All right. Peace.